Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video I am going to be analyzing and providing my thoughts on the patch 5.2 trailer in English. Earlier than this, I'll have posted an initial reaction to the Japanese trailer during the live letter. This is my first time watching the English trailer though, so I'm going to watch it through once, try to take in specifically the English dialogue. I'm not as much looking for the visuals this time as much as I'm trying to listen to what they say, because the confusion from the Japanese one was because I don't know what they're saying. So let's see what they're saying. I haven't really tested out the volume for this, so hopefully this volume works out for the video. We'll see. We're recording it live on Twitch, but I can always edit it on Sony Vegas after, so let's see what's going on here.
It was my hand that kindled these flames, and I cannot allow them to spread any further.
In such vessels did the ancients preserve concepts. Ideal forms to be drawn upon in the act of creation.
If, as the Exarch's research suggests, soul and mind share a fragile yet profound bond, might it not be possible for an event to leave such a deep imprint upon the soul that it could be perceived eons later?
The light! It's too much for her to bear!
In which case, none of this is mere coincidence.
Only by the will of the star itself could such a miracle come to pass.
Very unlike you to err so gravely.
Man, I'm just as mind blown as the first time. I don't think I processed anything more effectively than when I watched it in Japanese. Not even a little bit do I feel like I understand. And I really like the 5.1 trailer. 5.2 trailer has blown every trailer, practically even the 5.0 trailer, out the water for me. I don't really know what. Okay, so first let's just take things this event by event and see if slowing it down does me any favors here. We're just gonna skip around a little bit. So first of all, when we first saw Arc Ultima in 5.1, we assumed that there would be like a melding between the weapons and the people who are actually wielding them. This time it was almost like Evangelion style. Like there's like somebody piloting it, like this in this like, yeah, like this, like someone in a suit like piloting it from the inside. And that was not what I anticipated at all. But I guess if Arc Ultimate was like almost like a failed weapon in a sense, and Ruby is more like, I guess, them fully realizing the technology that they've been trying to replicate with, you know, we've seen the Ultima arms and the Praetorium, like they've been working on things like this for ages now, then it would make sense that maybe they don't need to meld someone to it in order to control it. And then someone was still controlling it with a machine in 5.12. They were just like behind a counter, like they were just like on the raftings or railings above and whatnot. I'm already blown away by the music of Ruby Weapon, the remixed Ultima Weapon theme, and that's just phase 1. They said they have something special for us in the second half. I wonder if he gets a more unique theme in the second half, but this is already a fantastic remix of what is already a great theme. Second of all, the visuals, the way that they're using his attacks already. We can see dive bombs, we can see using the nails, all the explosions that come with it. We saw some stuff from the live letter. It's obviously a normal and an EX fight, so expectations, you know, based on what we see, are always higher than what they end up being. But it can still be visually and almost nostalgically satisfying to see things like the nails going under the ground and then coming up from above. Like this visual right here, this exact screenshot I stopped on, this is a very appealing aesthetic as like a long-term Final Fantasy fan, seeing Ruby Weapon utilized like this. I love it. Big thing is Gaius is almost like it. Again, we have to be very careful with taking dialogue from trailers and applying it directly to you know, what's on the screen at any given time, because they like to mix and match those things, a lot of red herrings. But we can assume if Gaius is talking about something that's his fault, this is probably it, considering what our experience is with Gaius in the past and his running of the Praetorium and what we saw in there. So we can assume that Gaius is looking to atone a little bit for some of his past decision making and his actual events with the Empire itself. Nice single target Bioblaster, by the way. We move into this section here, and it's talking about, I need to actually listen to this part again, because they're mentioning that the Ancients had these like vessels stored away, and that sounds kind of like what Emmett Selk had, where Emmett Selk made all these fake versions of Solace that he could use as bodies, per se.
In such vessels did the Ancients preserve concepts.
Preserve concepts.
Ideal forms to be drawn upon in the act of creation.
Ideal forms to be act. Ideal forms. Yeah, it's mostly it's probably talking about the creation magic. It's probably diving deeper into how the actual creation magic worked for the Ascians, because we all know that they could form, as they're saying, concepts and vessels, that their own minds or their own worst enemies, and the tragedy that befell them, while still somewhat an unknown factor, was largely related to all of that. Was largely related to their inability to control it after that humming noise, you know, disrupted them and the tremors took place and everything started falling apart. So I'm wondering how much of that, it sounds like stuff we'll learn specifically in the Anamnesis Antidote. It sounds like that kind of information would be towed away. And we know the Anamnesis Antidote is not part of Emmett Selk's Amarot. It's part of the actual OG Amarot, the one that's kind of wilted and rotted away, based on the description that was on the 5.2 site. So it shouldn't be Emmett Selk's understanding of it. It should be real history. If I can say anything about that, that would be my prediction / guess. So moving forward, so we get our first look at Gaia. We saw her over a year ago at the Japanese Fan Fest in concept art. But Eden, there's a lot to unpack and a lot of speculation to be had. So Gaia is the Oracle of Darkness, whereas Reen was the Oracle of Light. So we've seen some of what Reen can do. She was able to like kind of control our light to keep us from turning into a Light Warden for a bit of time. So her power over that aspect should be comparable to Reen's. I should say Gaia's control over the darkness aspect should be somewhat comparable to Reen's control over light, which means she should theoretically be able to control Eden the same way, which I don't know if that's the result of the Krill from Gears of War making an appearance here, because that thing over there, it doesn't entirely remind me of Zodiark that like symbol over it's only like a vague, it just, how do I describe it? You know, when we see the like light and dark elemental paintings of them, it has like a sort of feel to that, especially when we see it in one of these upcoming stills. But really, I feel like this is all about the light and dark, because we have all of these like light birds or flying beings, and we do see dark ones in this teased encounter as well. See, like, kind of like here I see it, but it really just looks like almost like a device, like a transceiver or something. And we see Gaia interacting with it a little bit later. It's just a question of what it really is. Like, that image right there was very Zodiac to me. But then you get like this, where you have light and dark, you know, at the same time coming from this thing. So it could be almost like an aspect equalizer in a sense, or an aspect, maybe not absorber, but something that can at least take on multiple aspects. And we see Gaia, you know, interacting with it. We're currently on Eden, this giant, you know, light scent, as I've come to call them, I suppose, Sin Eaters. And what we really don't know much about, you know, we don't actually know what its origin is and how it operates and how it tied into the flood of light, and that's what we're still trying to discover. But there's a lot of questions about this boss, and this is actually why one of the points I'm going to make in a little bit is so important to me. I have the most questions about that. Then I get Big Daddy Ramuh. By the way, I didn't get the prediction all the way right, but I called it for the most part. I said we'd get like a more Rhalgr-esque looking Ramuh, because it's believed Ramuh is actually an interpretation the sylphs made of Rhalgr. So just trim the beard out, and you probably have something that would be a similar representation. We also have the Ixion body. We're in the Thunder Plains. Obviously, when it comes to lightning, we have all of that. Zervin is fire and ice, so as much as I like to relate the wings to that, it would really make a lot more sense for Bismarck, but I don't know, I'd have to go look at Bismarck's wings, but he's a centaur, just with wings. I think somebody said that's like a Teratar or something like that. There's like another name for exactly what Ramuh is. The music is fantastic. Now, this was something a lot of people kept bringing to me as a prediction that I didn't think, because I thought if it was going to be two primals at once, it would be Ifrit and Shiva, because they're opposing elements. But instead, after, you know, I'm actually making the assumption these encounters are in chronological order. Trailer-wise, that has not been stated. That's been left up to mystery. It could be in a different order. I just wouldn't have expected Garuda and Ifrit. It kind of makes sense because Titan, Garuda, and Ifrit are the OG3, so these two being together isn't actually all that surprising. Oh, Terra Centaur is the term my Twitch chat's giving me for a centaur with wings. Okay. But Fire and Wind are opposite in 14, I'm being told in my Twitch chat. I'd have to look, because I don't remember the Astral Umbral alignments. I always just see it as Fire and Ice. You know, Ifrit and Shiva, key partners in all the Final Fantasies, you know, mortal enemies in a sense, and I guess maybe that's why they couldn't be in the same encounter. But this excites me for two reasons. One, I want as many of the primals out of the way this patch as possible, because I don't think that's the story that needs to be told. I think the story with Gaia, Reen, and Eden is the story that needs to unfurl here, as much as we are trying to bring the empty back. You know, we're trying to restore life to it, restore the elements, completely save the first and restore it. The primals are not the interesting part of the story. They're just a cool nod to the creativity, if you want to call it that, of the Warrior of Light. So I love these. I love the remixes. I love the encounters, but they're not my core focus. This is 3 of the remaining 4 out of the way. They've only shown us 3 encounters in this trailer, so that means one of 2 things is possible. Shiva's the last one, which is what I'm hoping for, because I think Shiva deserves a final encounter level with how deep our emotions run with Isael, Iceheart, the events of Heaven's Ward, the Dragon Song War. There's so many elements that can get mixed up in there. It's dangerous to think about. The other possibility is it's a Void Scent related boss, potentially even something relating to Eden or Gaia directly, or the villain, maybe the true villain. A lot of people suspect there's an Ultimecia level being above Gaia You know, I feel like that's a safe assumption to make. I personally think that will be a part of the final tier, and that they could play a role in the final encounter of Eden's verse as well. Maybe the term Eden's verse being the term, may even be an allusion to what we can expect with that final encounter. I think verse is just getting all these out of the way. I'm excited though. I can't wait to hear the theme for Ifrit and Garuda. We can see that, dude, Ifrit's like full-on monk Ifrit too. I love it. Like, look at that. He's just got so much force behind his hits. He's like, he really reminds, like, I really feel like it's like a fire monk. That's what I'm getting when I see Ifrit actually attacking in these. And it's so much impact even in the trailer, just watching his attacks go off. Just, yeah, he's like Ifrit from DMC. Yeah, he's using the gauntlets from Devil May Cry. Yeah, it actually has that very same feeling, the gauntlets from the Devil May Cry series. Yeah, no, I support that. It works for me. And then we go, there's a lot more in dealing with the Ronkin ruins. There's a lot more dealing with trying to understand a way that we can send everyone back to the source. And that seems to be what the point of this is with the Ronkin ruins, the idea of soul, the ether of the soul, the ether of the body, the ether of the mind, and sending them all through time. Because it says that it can be preserved through eons. And I'm curious if that plays into some of the things we see elsewhere. Because it's the last like 45 seconds, I can't even begin to comprehend it. We also have this guy here who I feel like my memory is just bad, because I feel like I should know who this is, but it's just not coming to me right now. We have our new ally from 5.1 who's really teaching us all about I feel like he's from one of the tank quests. He is from one of the quests. I knew it. He's the guy from the role quest for tanks. He's grandson. Okay, good. My Twitch chat, I knew they'd have an answer for me, because like I knew I recognized his face, but I couldn't place where. Tank quest, tank role quest. Excellent. We have, of course, our expert on the ether of the soul of the body. We have our good old boy Grahatia, who everyone's still thirsting over. And then we get to the really confusing stuff. So we have these clouds descending upon the Crystarium over on the first. And this appears to be alongside... it skips to another cut, but it appears to be alongside who we presume is Elidibus and Ardbert's body, making an appearance there as well. Again, the cuts kind of jump around, but this was the scene I mentioned earlier with Gaia dealing with what looks to be the first boss, almost like dispelling it. It looks like it's trying to like take control of her mind again, almost junction them together like she was with the Voidwalker in the first place, and she kind of just like casts it aside. She looks like she wants nothing to do with whatever the heck is going on right here, whatever that thing is. And that thing almost certainly also came from the 13th, from the Void. We also have some more scenes over in the Amarant. I'm assuming this is in the Anamnesis Anator. My question is, are they members of the Convocation who were part of the summoning of Zodiark? Are they the ones that did not survive being sundered? Their souls have been torn apart. Are they pieces of the Warrior of Light, or are they just Amaratines? Are they maybe the Amaratines whose souls are looking after the Anator? Are they followers of Hydaelyn? We do get a little bit of a reminder that Hydaelyn may be getting her voice back a little bit later into the trailer as well. So there's a lot of questions about what Amaratines those are. Now we come here, this is Garlean territory, but where it is a question mark. I saw somebody suggest in my Twitch chat when we were watching the Japanese trailer that this is one of the Evolution states, which makes sense. Specifically, they thought it was Arcadia. Yes. And you know what? I cannot dispute that, because I don't know where it is, and it reminds me most of Arcadia from Final Fantasy XII. We know Matsuno's back to work on the Return to Ivalice story, and so we might be looking at Final Fantasy XIV's iteration of Arcadia from Final Fantasy XII, from the Ivalice series. So, it's got a bit of damage over here, which could be the result of an attack of some kind, or it could be a failed experiment. They do have, it looks like they're on patrol here, so something bad has happened, considering the Hrothgar are trying to earn back their place from Gabranth in particular. It may have something to do, there may have been like an infiltration of some kind that's kind of prompting our involvement in the war, specifically between the Hrothgar of Bajra and the Garleans, and I am all down for that. Now, it could be, there are other places it could be. I'm subscribing to the Arcadia theory for the time being, because it does very much give me some of those vibes. It's a little bit too... it's damaged, and it could just be damaged. Maybe it was an annexed state at some point. It wasn't Garlean-built territory, and it was an Evolution city-state that was annexed, unless it still has damage. That's possible as well. Regardless, there's none of it's definitive. That's just all speculation at this point. Then this is where I lose my mind, and I have no idea what's happening at this point, because like I've got guesses, but I'm lost. I completely lose all focus, and I just nerd out every time we get to this section. So I don't know what this is. I don't know if my Twitch chat's saying maybe it's Memoria. I don't know if it's like an echo flashback of the end of the world again. I see constellations all over the place. I don't know if that's like an electric field or what. I don't know what it is. It could be what's left over of the Bajra Citadel after the Project Meteor failed. This could be how the land is warped, but we know we're not going there entirely yet. We only know we're going there as part of an exploration zone, in 0.35, we'll finally go to Ilsabard and be a part of these new field areas. But it could be that this is how the ether has warped, because that's kind of like a big theme with exploration zone, is warping ether in the area. It's led to all sorts. When we were in the Diadem, it didn't lead to us needing to re-level or anything, but the way that we had to manipulate the air ether in the area is very different, and the ether in the area is very it fluxed a lot. In Eureka, it was all sorts of wrong, water flowing upwards, a volcano in the middle of a snowy mountain, that's just all sorts of weird things that were taking place. Wind, weather, everything all aligned. This is very in line with that kind of ideal, and could be our introduction into the exploration area. Now, that actually that theory lends itself to some of the scenes we see right after, which was this is the only thing that makes me not think that, is because who we see involved in the next several scenes is a lot of people, and there's let's just go forward a little bit. So that's back in the Rock and Ruins with Ishtola. Still again trying to figure out. In fact, I could listen to a line or two from this again. I feel like I could benefit from that.
In which case, none of this is.
Wait.
In which case.
Okay, let's just go back a little bit more. Okay, no, back a little more. She doesn't say anything.
It's too much for her to bear.
The light is too much for her to bear. It's probably Gaia, to be honest.
In which case, none of this is mere coincidence.
Yeah. So we have that none of that is mere coincidence. We have Ardbert approaching all of us out in Raktica over here. And it's just, everything just starts falling apart for me at this point. So we've got a mix of things. So a big thing that tells us that this is probably Bajra is Cid. Cid is here. Unless something has happened and he's now on the first, which I don't think is the case, he is here right now. Okay, that is all there is to it. Another person who's here is Mikoto, who is somebody from the Return to Evil East series that we have to complete before this. Both of those things immediately lead us to these are the ruins of Bajra. What happened? Cid, remember, lost his father to that project, and so we're probably going to be digging up some pretty dark pasts in order to go through this series right here. We can see some Garlean warriors there. We can see what looks to be almost how would I describe this? I see this and I see all the arms and I think Shiva, but that's probably not the case. It could be. I've seen a lot of people draw this comparison more to the traditional Shiva in my Twitch chat when this was here. My Twitch chat says right now it's thick Hydaelyn. I'd like to imagine that's not the case. Asura is another god. There's a few gods people are trying to draw comparisons to. So which one it is and which one 14 is deriving this from is a big question mark. But there are implications for each of them. I think Shiva is the least likely one. I think Asura is probably the most likely one. And I just don't want to believe it's the Hydaelyn. So those are not, I don't want to be like, those are Hydaelyn's thighs. I don't need that in my life right now. So we've got some Garleans right here. Now, this is a big thing. We go from Mikoto to what looks to be a piece of Auracite. Now, we know we're getting an EX difficulty trial in this patch that has to do with the relic quest, and this Auracite being the core of our base weapon for our relic would not, to me, be any way surprising to me personally. We also have both of them going to this Garlean tech, but then all of a sudden Cid starts just coughing up. It's hard to tell. Yeah, okay, I was trying to get a good color if it was black gunk or if it was blood, because it goes kind of quick. And the question is if that's like damage from a battle or if he's been poisoned in some way. I'd like to believe he's been maybe stabbed by Gabranth or something like this and he's coughing up blood over here in Garlemald. There's a few other possibilities, but because they never show us really much of anything, like we get kind of a scene of them running into it. It could also just be him vomiting because we can see those are the weapons. I think those are actually all the weapons in the tubes right there. You can kind of see there's like a bunch of little figures and some of them kind of take shapes of various different weapons. There's a lot of them over there. So those are either beings that are being experimented on or those are weapons that the Garleans have actually collected and have an overall relation to the quest, which would make sense considering we know we have to complete this series of quests if this is, you know, the Bajra Citadel quest, which we should presume it is, in order to take that. It could be Black Rose has a different effect. Black Rose halts all your ether flow. I don't think he'd be coughing up blood from that. He would just fall apart. It's hard to really count how many there are, but there's certainly a lot going on there. Then again, we have Ardbert here, who again we're assuming is Elidibus in the Crystarium. We have us, like at this point we've seen him, we know like this is a big problem right here. I think this face tells me more than anything that's Elidibus. The artwork for the patch tells us it's most likely Elidibus. And then this is the confusing thing. So that was the thing that blew me away, because they said that they can travel, they can maintain their ether, all forms of it, while traveling through time. And they just show up in what we presume is something to do with the Bajra Citadel and not the main scenario. All of a sudden, even Reen is here, mind you. Everyone is here. This could be a projection of some kind. It's totally a possibility, and that they didn't actually just get sent by, you know, by Graha or some other man. It's something's going on here. It could have to do with the Aura site. It could have to do with what we learned in the anime. There's so many possibilities. Maybe it's trusts. Maybe we're like, oh yeah, I got trust magic. Those are just avatars. Those aren't the real people. But oh man, I'm nerding out. All right, I'm nerding out. Okay. And then we have Gaia sinking into darkness. Now this is the scene that's blowing people's minds, because Xenos is in the he's in the final days of the Amarat. He's partaking in that place. He's wearing and walking like Emmett Selk, which is frightening. And it is worth remembering that he does have blood ties to Emmett Selk, so that is not all that surprising. So he's on the first. He's in the projection of the Amarat. There's so many question marks about this scene. His demeanor that he's just walking towards. The Grahatia is not having a good time. Something's wearing on his body at this point. It could be that we're in the process of maybe successfully sending people back to the source. He's starting to feel the pain of death because he's supposed to vanish. He's supposed to vanish and die once everything is successful. And we're trying to prevent that. We're also trying to kill him maybe to, you know, bring everyone back. That's the other solution we still have. Then we have this. This is where things get really, really confusing, because it's Dalamud. Without a shadow of a doubt, that's Dalamud, and it looks to be above the Bajra Citadel. This is most likely some sort of echo flashback, but the usual, like, kind of fuzziness around the screen isn't there, because we know the Meteor Project is what destroyed Bajra Citadel. So it's reasonable that these two things would be in the same scene together. But it then goes to this, where we have them, and we are presuming, based on the previous scene, that they are here, they're in the source, while this Bajra Citadel thing is going on. I don't know what's going on. I'm lost, okay? I don't know if that's Bajra. I don't know if that's someplace else, and I'm just thinking it's Bajra because I'm like automatically drawing. There's so many things that I don't understand that's happening right now. I don't know if that's even just taking place on the. I don't know if that's like a Dalamud that's been brought to the first through the time, like not Emmett's, Grahatia. I don't know why I keep saying that. Grahatia's time travel. Like, has he brought that to the first? I don't know. I want to believe it's just the echo. It's Alligans, man. Then this starts exploding, and you get kind of an extended scene of the end of days in Amarat. Did they send Did they send Xenos back to like the actual day of the actual Doomsday? Is this just Emmett Selk's projection again? Is he re-projecting it now that he's... I don't... I'm losing my mind. There's Amaratines here. I can see them. This is the Amarat. He's walking through it again. He's seeing the end of the world. Dalamud crashes into the ground. And by the way, this looks to be us in a battle stance, which would imply that this is taking place in an instance or the new trial or something along those lines. And I don't know what the hell is going on. All I know is I want it now. I want it right now. And then you have this little scene right here. You know, you have Elidibus, you have us, you have Ardbert, and then you have Dalamud. And the fact that Dalamud is floating over so menacingly makes me think it's more to do with the main scenario and less to do with the Bajra Citadel events. But it's not like they haven't used side quests for patchwork art before, trailers, and again, there's always red herrings. Okay. So I'm going to listen to the last like 30 seconds of the trailer again and try to extrapolate that. Because I don't know what to... all right. So there's Hydaelyn's voice. That's the first time we've heard Hydaelyn's voice since A Realm Reborn, outside of speaking to Minfilia when she became the voice of the mother. So, which, you know, Hydaelyn does not have a voice anymore. So that's Hydaelyn, hear, feel, think. So that's actually a massive thing, considering our conflict with Elidibus and Zodiark at this point reaching its climax. To hear Hydaelyn's voice again is certainly a major thing, just with how long it's been.
Emmett Selk, how very unlike you to err so gravely.
Then that's a big question mark. Emmett Selk, how very unlike you to act so gravely. The voice sounds like it's far away, distorted. They add those effects. Sometimes those effects aren't there when we actually get err so gravely. Sorry, err so gravely. It's hard to tell if that's... Because we're still questioning when and how a lot of the stuff is happening. Time travel has become a thing in 14, and like most cases with time travel, it can get really confusing. And it's no less confusing now than it ever was. So it's very possible that that's Zodiark's voice, because it has that kind of, it has almost that kind of that feeling that you get when you hear, feel, think, for example. But it's not as distorted as Hydaelyn's, where Hydaelyn's has become very weak and whatnot. So it's very possible that is that. I don't recall them saying it was Elidibus's voice on Live Letter. It very well could be, and it makes sense for it to be Elidibus's voice because, you know, he's the only one left. And Emmett Selk went pretty ham when it came to executing on his plans. So, man, I just want it. I just want it. I want it all. I really can't understand what's happening in the last like 20, 30 seconds. Between all the jump cuts, between the mix of Bajra Citadel stuff, Dalamud, stuff that's happening on the first, stuff that's happening on the source, what's said. It's very ambiguous. It's very exciting. I've never been... So here's the thing. I'm going to be raiding the first couple days. So I'll get the Eden stuff done first. Man, when I have time for that main story, I'm sitting down. I'm just enjoying it. First time through. Ain't no one skipping, no cutscenes. We are digging deep in this one, and we got a lot to learn, so strap in. But let me know what you think. I'm sure I made some errors in there, things I misheard, things I misinterpreted, or things that you just think I interpreted differently than you would have interpreted. Put that in the comment section of the video below, and get hype, because we got good times ahead. So thanks for watching. Twitch stream, I'm going to continue for a little bit, but on YouTube, I'll see you next time. Until then, take care.